Welcome to another episode of the Silman Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto. We have returning guest and friend of the show, Manny Rivera, on to talk about his experience at the World Championships. We're also going to be talking about our recent visit that we took as a program to CBU and got to watch some great wrestling in SoCal. CBU wrestled Iowa last night, and it was a pretty good time. So excited to have Manny on and hope you guys enjoy the show. Is St. Christopher's, is that the high school you were helping out at?
No. St. Christopher's is in Richmond, Virginia, and have a good friend that used to be the head coach there. Actually, now an old teammate from Minnesota. I think he's still there. He took over, but no, just another wrestling time. Actually, Ross Chitomer, he's the head coach at Blair now. So that's
Nice.
one of my good buddies. So he
Okay.
left St. Christopher's for Blair.
Did you meet him when you were coaching at Virginia?
Yep. So I
Nice.
had just got there and he had just graduated maybe a year or two, and he was doing his teaching post grad stuff there. So he was working on getting his teaching degree, and he was helping out as like GA coming in, and yeah, just got to know him pretty well. Good dude.
Nice. Yeah. Dude, Blair's Blair has just been a perennial powerhouse as far as I can remember. I can't remember a time when they weren't good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I don't know. I guess when I started paying attention to wrestling, like Mako and Mark Perry and Esposito were tough, but I can't. My memory doesn't go past that point.
Yeah, I mean those guys are right around my era, so I for sure just remember all those guys. They were like the team to beat, and mostly every time since they've been pretty dang good. So a ton of guys have come out of there and been great college wrestlers. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty cool. So he went to Blair, and that was his connection to Blair. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
so
You didn't really
roundabout.
ever wrestle any of those guys when you were in high school, right? Because you kind of stayed relatively local for a lot of
Yeah,
competition.
yeah, I didn't get out too much to wrestle. So I think the only time I overlapped with any Blair guys was at the high school nationals, um, which they had a few guys that won. Mark Perry being one of them. Weight below me, his name was Robbie Preston. He won 119. He wrestled for Harvard, I think. But yeah, I'm sure there's a couple others I'm not remembering. But
Nice.
those guys, those guys won the high school nationals that year. I did. '03.
Yeah. Well, we got cut off a little bit on Friday, but we talked a little bit. I guess just kind of just looping back around, like what was your overall experience, do you think, just being at the World Championships? That was your first time there, right?
Yeah, that was my first time at any world championships, and then especially going like kind of somewhere random. Belgrade, Serbia was really cool. Um, because they've hosted the world championships in the US, hosted the Olympics, what was it, 96 in Atlanta. So they've been here nearby, but I, for whatever reason, never went. So it was pretty cool. First time going to that tournament, and then obviously traveling somewhere pretty unique was pretty fun. And then doing it with a handful of old college teammates was even funner. So, we're all sitting there after it's all kind of said and done, and we're hanging out at dinner, and it's just kind of like, hey, you guys ever think we'd be doing this when we were back in college? We'd be like hanging out still, like 20 years later, whatever it's been, watching wrestling and wherever. We're
In
like, not
Serbia.
really. Yeah. So it was kind of a cool moment to reflect and be like, yeah, this is pretty sweet. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, like just the people that you meet just through your journey to I don't know, that sounds dramatic, but yeah, it's a journey. Just last night at the CBU duel, a guy that I wrestled and kind of knew a little bit in high school, Nolan Kistler. I was just walking. They let anybody on the floor, by the way. I was just walking around because O'Rourke and Brady and all those guys that were like right behind the announcers table, and they had an extra ticket, so I just was kind of bouncing back and forth between my group and them. But I'm just walking by and I see Nolan, and he's like, "Oh, dude, what's up? Like, been watching the show," and I'm like, "Dude, we gotta get you on at some point." But yeah, he grabbed me. He's like, "Dude, you're looking good." I'm like, I look good with the shirt on." And he's like, "No, man, seriously." I'm like, No, really, I look good with the shirt on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just love the fraternity of wrestling that you just get to have, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and the older and the further you get from when you competed, you'll run into guys you used to compete against, and it's like when you're competing, there's always that little bit of like, the unknown. I guess it is even a little like animosity, just that the competitiveness where you almost don't want to like someone, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're competing against them. And then just the further you get from that in age and time, you run into people you compete against, and it's just like they end up being like awesome people, right? Like no surprise, but at the same time, it's like you kind of always tunnel vision to when you compete, and you're like, I don't know about that guy.
Is there anybody that comes to mind when you're talking about that?
Ah, most people. I mean, no one specific,
Everyone.
but most people, you're competing, you just want to, not be friends with them. You want to have any reason to want to beat someone even more or worse or whatever. And
Yeah.
then, once like you put your guard down, you don't compete anymore. You're like, yeah, great guy.
Yeah, I think for me, what sticks out is like Dom Kincaid because he beat me twice in high school, and then I beat him twice in college.
Yeah.
And Hockett too. I wrestled Josh Hockett or Hokett, however you pronounce his last name. But Isaiah flipped off the crowd at the duel. I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember that.
I
And
remember. Yeah.
both those guys came in the CSUB room like maybe I don't know a year ago, like during the summer. And I brought that up. I'm like, hey, remember when you flipped off the crowd? And Isaiah was like, yeah, sorry. But both of them were super nice. And they brought up Kincaid. And I'm like, I bet he's a really great, they're
Yep.
probably all great people. Like, we're probably would be friends if we were on the same team. But yeah, when you're like a competitor, it's like, screw that guy. You know what I mean? But I feel like you have to have that.
Yeah. I mean, to a point, it becomes like almost like natural and organic to that. It just happens. You just, right? Like, there's very few guys who are just like, oh, that guy seems nice. Maybe I'll go be friends with him. It's like, it's just weird, right? Like, you just don't want to let your guard down almost. You just want to be ready for the battle.
Yeah, maybe if I ever start competing again, I'm just gonna be that guy that goes up and be like, "Oh, hey, are you wrestling 97 kilos? Me too. Oh, hey, we
Yeah.
might if you win, we might wrestle each other in the tournament."
Just
It'd be
over the
so
top.
awkward.
Like, hey, I baked some cookies for everyone in the weight class. Here you go.
Yeah, just that way. Hey guys, I got shirts for my podcast. Just want to give these out. I think you guys are great. That'd be so
Yeah, just over the top, friendly and nice. That would be, yeah. I made gift baskets for everyone in the weight. Here you guys go.
nice.
Yeah.
Dude, gift baskets are expensive. I'm
Yes.
not sure if I want to get out. Like, I mean, if it's the open or anything like that, that might be over 16 baskets. I don't know. Logistically, that might be tough.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah, maybe hit them up ahead of time, like because you can look at their registrants. Hey, what's your favorite candy? I'll bring it for after wins.
What would be actually interesting is if you actually went through and did something that nice, how many people would actually accept it? Because I still think a lot of people would be like, no, I don't want your gift basket because they still like what we're talking about. They're so competitive. They're like, no.
I mean, okay, so like let's say that happened. We were at the same weight, and I got you a gift basket or a piece of candy, whatever it was, right? Like, how would you feel? Would you be conflicted, or would it be animosity, or would it be something
I would
else?
say I would say I wouldn't want it, but I guess okay. I don't want one. I don't need one. I would reject it. I really would. Be like, nah, I'm good.
Okay.
And then probably later, if I saw there was like something sweet in there that I liked, I'd probably feel like regret, being like, I should have just taken it. But nope, in the moment, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I wouldn't want it except I'd be like, nah, no thanks, man. Keep your gift basket.
I'd probably take it. I'm like, well, I mean, you worked hard putting it together. Like, I'll take it. I'm sorry I didn't bring you anything. Um, good luck. Good luck today. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I can kind of have that switch though, from being like nice to like, all right, let's fight kind of thing. Um, but I don't know. I'm also kind of like a fatty, so I like food. So if somebody's gonna give me food, then
Mm.
I'm probably gonna take it.
Yeah. No, I'm not that I'm not friendly. I think I just always liked having like a little bit of a distance with whoever I was competing against. Like wasn't gonna go out of my way to
Yeah.
get to know anyone. And yeah, I don't know. I think now though it's like again, like I'm old, but and you hear this all the time, but with social media, like all these guys have access to their competitors like at any moment. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. So these guys you're competing against, you'd see them once every month if you went to the same big tournaments during wrestling season. Other than that, you never saw each other, so it's harder to connect. I guess it's probably a lot easier now that I think about it.
Yeah. Especially with flow too. Like if you see a headline like so and so beat so and so, or wherever you look at the results, like you can see it, and it's a little bit easier to, I think, keep track of. Um, I try to stay away from that when I was competing, but it's hard, especially if you're
Yeah.
just scrolling through Instagram and like boom, like a Flow Wrestling has a post or whatever. Makes it tough. What do you think about Snyder
Hold
going
on.
out to said? Go ahead,
I'm gonna get some water. Hold on, I left my water
get
back
some
here.
water. Get some water.
There it is.
I'm
I
gonna,
just left
I'm
it
gonna get
behind me.
I'm gonna get some water too. You saw that Snyder went out to Sajalayev, right? It was like
Um.
there's Snyder and Nolf. They went out to Dagestan on like a visit,
Oh, I didn't know that.
mm-hmm.
Hmm. Interesting. Like recently or a while back?
like a year ago.
Oh, okay. I think I do remember that. But Snyder ended up wrestling some other Dagestani. He didn't wrestle Sajulayev because they did some exhibitions, right? If I remember
Uh,
correctly.
yeah. So what was interesting, Nolf was talking about it because he has a podcast, and he was talking about it like, you know, we kept thinking we were gonna make weight, so like they're like coming to train, and Sajalayev, like I guess he had a whole crew that was with him, and they took him on like a boat, like a big boat ride, and like we're feeding them and like taking care of them, and like, all right, like when are we gonna weigh in? Like when are we gonna work out? And like, oh, like don't worry about it. Like they're not really sure. Like I don't know if it was like I don't remember if it was like a translation thing, but there was still like what do you mean? Don't worry about it, you know? And and go on this big long boat ride, and they think like they're going somewhere, and they're like, all right, time to turn back, and it was like hours down this river, and they had to turn back. And they ended up getting like some matches, but it was more like I think just to bring them and like show them the country, and to kind of like treat them like honored guests, and
Yeah,
that was it. Like and
cultural
they
cultural
yeah
exchange type of thing. Yeah,
yeah, and I didn't realize that Sadulayev has his own academy for wrestling until what's his face? I don't remember the guy's name. He wrestled. Was it
the
Azerbaijan or Georgia?
Taza something. Yeah, no, Bahrain. The guy that beat
Yeah,
him, right? That beat both him
yeah,
and Snyder is
yeah,
from his academy. Yeah,
yeah. I thought I didn't know who he was until he. I think Tech Snyder, right? I'm like, holy
yeah,
crap, who is this guy? I think it was like an age level world champ or something like that, like U23s or U20s or something. U20s, I think was
yeah.
kind of wild.
Yeah, we were all surprised. Like we were there, right? And we're like, what the heck? And we didn't know anything about him. And we just see it's a guy from Bahrain who isn't like known for the wrestling. We're like, okay, he's gonna cruise. Then he's got Saji. And then we were excited to watch him wrestle Saji Live. We're like, man, can he get him again? You know, he's lost the last few. And then it's like got teched. We're like, what the hell? And then like initially it's kind of like, man, well, he's in trouble because Saji Live is gonna beat this guy and he's not gonna get pulled back in. But then Saji Live had that crazy, what was it, quarterfinal. So
Yeah,
then it was like, maybe, maybe that guy's got a shot. Sajulayev isn't looking very good. Guy did beat Snyder, like, maybe. And then sure enough, like kind of whipped him. And I was like, oh, smokes, who is this guy? Real deal.
yeah. Do you feel like just watching Sajalayev? I don't know. I feel like since he made that jump up a higher weight, I mean, he's been pretty dominant at that weight class, but I don't know if this is maybe not the right thing to say, but I feel like he hasn't really gotten too much better, and he also hasn't really been competing. I feel like internationally within the last year.
Yeah, the last couple years he's competed a lot less. No, I guess to your point, doesn't feel like he's separated from the field, right? He was still like at the front, but hasn't separated anymore, which I would agree with. Kind of seems obvious now that he took that loss, but yeah, I don't know. What I will say is being out there, with the exception of maybe Sidakov and who's the other Russian that I think won. What weight was that?
The Hungarian Russian.
No, no, no. Russia, or AIN, whatever they had to represent. I think it Marsteller's weight, the other Russian won there. But
79.
basically, with the exception of like two guys, everyone else didn't look like they were in shape. Kind of, I guess not too surprising if you think about it. Weren't sure if they were going to compete, so they were probably far from peak um, peak level from where you've seen them before. But I don't know. I thought about that a lot, and it was like, look, it's probably a lot of things. They haven't had a lot of consistency for a while. When all that doping stuff came out, they got in trouble for that. So then what was it? They couldn't represent Russia then, so they were on the fence there, not sure if they could compete.
Yeah.
Then the war with Ukraine, then can't travel much to go compete. So they've had a lot of like uncertainty. Well, I don't know. It's been quite a few years now. That doping stuff came out, what, about 3, 4 years ago, maybe more, when they were
Yeah.
sanctioned for that Olympics. So, yeah, so they've had a lot of inconsistency and uncertainty. So I think you're starting to see that in their results and in their performance, in my opinion. But um, maybe it's just they're off the juice too. So it's like they got busted and they're not on the juice like they were before.
Yeah, I didn't even think about, they might not even be training as hard because they think, well, why if we're probably not even gonna be able to do this? Um, which I don't know. I think that's the wrong mentality to have. But I also, uh, I don't think I have the right perspective because my country's not at war, and like, it feels like maybe a lot of those Western European countries hate us. So, um, yeah, I don't know.
It's
But yeah,
interesting.
that's
You
an
know
interesting
what?
point.
And this is completely non-wrestling related, but to that point, well, I'll say a couple examples, but it's interesting. You go to this place and you meet people from all over the world, and we randomly bumped into these Russian kids that were living in Belgrade in Serbia. Had just moved there a few months ago because of the war. They kind of left Russia, and they just didn't, they didn't say exactly why they were sick because of the war. Um, and the kid we were talking to, he was into esports. So he spoke some English, plays like at a global level. I guess he manages this really good esports team. He was telling us they play tournaments all over the world from
Nice.
teams all over. But anyway, so we kind of started asking them, and we're like, well, hey man, well, one is like, hey, you speak decent English? How'd you learn English? I learned in school, but mostly I speak a lot of English because of the esports, blah blah blah. And then it's like, oh, why'd you come to Serbia? Well, Serbia's pretty neutral and pretty friendly to Russia. So it wasn't difficult for us to come here, as
Yeah.
opposed to other countries wouldn't admit us. But and I was like, well, what are your thoughts on like the conflict, the war between Russia and Ukraine? He goes, oh, it's shit, it's bullshit. It's like it's he kind of just reflects. It's like that's just the government's fighting. He goes, Ukraine, we have cousins, we have friends there. There's no animosity between the people.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, it's like it makes sense, but you don't know, right?
No, I
So
mean
it's kind of
that's kind of what I was thinking in my head, like when all broke out initially. I'm like, this isn't like culturally they're very similar. There's a lot of, I think, intermingling of Ukrainians and Russians. And before this current Ukrainian government, like it was a government that was backed by Russia. So like
hmm
there was a lot of intermingling. So it's just kind of crazy. That makes sense, that they would have family members over there. Um, but yeah, kind of a wild time. We had a kid. We have a kid. I don't know what his deal is. I'm not going to get into the details of that. He's kind of in and out of practice, but he's pretty tough. He's from Chechnya, and he speaks fluent Russian, and kind of a goofy kid. He's super funny. but kind of athletic. But it's just it's been tough getting him in the room consistently, and I'm not sure why. So he's doing like independent studies technically right now, but they actually moved back for a summer like a couple years ago, and then they moved back to the U.S. when the war broke out. So it
Oh
was
wow.
like, all right, like when it started getting serious. And this is another thing too. I play chess online a lot. I play chess.com, and there's a lot of Ukrainian players. So in my head, I'm like, do you guys have Wi-Fi like right now? Like, a kid playing. Maybe it's like 10 of them. They're on like a tablet, like a bombshell. Like that's what I'm visualizing. Like, how are you? I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't be. I don't know. I wouldn't casually be playing chess if I'm in like my country's getting invaded. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe they do
Yeah.
that as like an escape. Maybe it's not all Ukrainians. Maybe they are in Germany, or they're in Serbia, or they're in like another country and they still claim Ukraine. I don't know, but
Yeah. No, it is interesting. Just like you start to just meet real people from these other places. I think it was the first session we were there. We sat right by, like right around a bunch of the Iranian fans. And they were awesome. Super friendly, extremely knowledgeable of like international wrestling. They knew like all our guys, all our teams. They were like even asking like, "Hey, what happened to Jaden Cox?" Like things I wouldn't expect them to know. And it's like, "Hey," and it's like, "Oh, what do you think about like Burrows? Is he going to be able to like make the team again?" And like just super knowledgeable. Like I would even think a lot of people here in the U.S. wouldn't even like think to question some of these things, right? Like at the international level. But you know, just kind of small talk and super friendly, super nice. Just appreciate wrestling. Who wrestled that first day? I think it was like David Taylor,
yeah,
right? And then David Taylor
it's
has
Donnie.
been getting the better of Yazdani, and they're just like David Taylor. He's like one of my favorite wrestlers. It's just unfortunate he always has to wrestle Yazdani, but man, we really love the way David Taylor wrestles, and it's just like, wow. You would almost think like these guys are gonna hate us. When I first sat down, I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
if this is a good place to sit. It's like, I mean, they might get pissed or something. And they ended up being awesome.
Yeah, Burroughs was saying it was they wrestled in I think as Tehran,
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the cities, and that might be the capital. But he
Mm-hmm.
said it was crazy interacting with Iranians because like they like love Jordan Burroughs, like they love like the stars, and he's like, what's interesting in comparing United States wrestling and Iranian wrestling, the United States we always love the underdog, and Iran they always love like the hero, like they like the winner, like they like the hero, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about how that's different. But that's funny that they're asking like serious questions about like Jaden Cox and Burrows, and like they're super knowledgeable. Dude, that must have been super fun. Are a lot of people there, like especially the fans and stuff? Do they speak pretty good English?
Um, I would say a good portion of them. It was interesting because there was like a half of the arena that was sectioned off. So like our tickets were for like whatever the north or west half of the arena, and then the other half we had no access to, but that was like a whole nother side of the arena that I don't know who or what was given access to that side, but there was like a couple thousand people like we didn't interact with. So I don't know how that was determined, but it was
Hmm.
interesting. I was just like, who's over there? But no, a lot of people spoke English, like those Iranian fans, they spoke some English. I'm trying to think what other countries we may have sat by, but a lot of at least a little bit of English for the most part. So it was interesting,
Yeah.
but cool.
Was there any other like big matches that you saw that like stuck out that you thought maybe like somebody like really impressed you, or you had like a really good performance that maybe like you thought was interesting?
I mean, cool performances that stuck out were Vito looked incredible.
Yeah,
Um, Musakayev,
dude, that
he's the one
guy's.
I think
I would hate
he's so
wrestling that guy.
he's so explosive. Um, well, that Tazamidov or whatever, however you say his name. Him beating Snyder and Sadulayev on like the same day. I mean, who would have picked that? And I think like the performance itself wasn't like outstanding. Like he didn't do anything incredible, but just that he did it. Um, I
With
think those kind
Snyder,
of
he
stick
just
out.
had some crazy counters. I feel like
Exactly.
Snyder just kept shooting and would get stuck underneath and try to build up, and he would hit something on him for four.
It, correct. Correct. And it's almost like, yeah, exactly. Like if Snyder was less offensive, does the match go any different? Maybe, probably, I think. He
Yeah.
gets to his legs less. But no, Sidakov against Dake, being able to finish on Dake a couple times. What was it, 2, 3 times he got in? I think he might have finished it. I mean, to beat Dake in that position is pretty impressive. But I think overall performance, probably Vito's the one, and Musakayev, like those guys just looked incredible the whole
Yeah,
tournament.
Vito, the last. I mean, he had that. I think his last loss is to Latona. But honestly, like since that loss, he just has looked lights out. Um, Actually, no. I think was it maybe his quarterfinal against Latona. I thought it was actually kind of close, right? At NCAA's.
Oh, I don't remember anymore, but that could be accurate. That could
Um,
be
but then,
correct.
yeah, since then, I mean, he beat Dayton Fix, who was a world silver medalist, right? And then he beat Roman Bravo Young, who's two time national champ.
Yep.
Um, and then goes on a tear. Wins the World Team Trials and then goes on to win the world. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he looked incredible. And then there's other guys. I mean, like, they kind of get lost in the shuffle because the US team did so good. But like Zane Rutherford, he wrestled great. Zaid going up a weight last minute and then taking the
Yeah,
bronze.
yeah,
It's like
that's a dog.
it's like holy smokes. Like I didn't know how he would do. And he looked good. He wrestled great. Yeah, Rutherford was solid. So was it Mason Paris, same thing. Like,
Yeah,
I
he
don't
went
know
on a good run.
I don't know, I'm sure he was preparing like he was going to wrestle, not knowing what was going on with Gable, but probably didn't know he was actually going to be the guy for a while, and then to show up and get a medal, that's pretty damn impressive too. So,
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with Gable. I heard like some rumors that he's having a falling out with the WWE or something like that. I don't know how valid that is, but I saw an article that there's something going on. Just he hasn't been developing as quickly as they would like for how much they're paying him.
yeah, I read probably the same thing. I don't know how reliable that whole thing was, but it is interesting, even if it is somewhat true.
Yeah,
What does he do next? Um, I don't know, and I don't know what that means. Like, he's kind of perceived as like he kind of didn't quite live up to the expectations at WWE. Does that kind of um, lower his stock a little bit, as opposed to coming off an Olympic gold, and then like it seemed like he could go do MMA if he wanted. He can go do this and that and all these
yeah.
doors, but I don't know if this kind of like makes some of those things a little bit harder to access, or maybe not. I don't know. UFC
I mean,
probably would probably not care. I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
it depends what it is.
Lesnar kind of did it. I mean, I think Lesnar had, I think, a pretty decent WWE career before he switched back, or not switched back, but switched to MMA, and then went back. I think an even bigger star in WWE. But I don't know. It's all kind of just speculation. I think right now we don't really know what's happening. Um,
Exactly.
did you watch any wrestling today or yesterday?
I saw the CBU duel. I saw CBU against Iowa.
Yeah,
I saw all of that, and then today I just kind of been watching the results. I don't know. Have you seen any results from today? There was already some wild results at the
dude. No,
Clarion
I
Open.
saw. Yeah, kind of when you texted me like, "Hey, let's come on an hour." Like I was kind of scrolling through Instagram and I saw Marcus Blaze beat um, Ramos, and I'm like, all right. Like so, I went and watched the match. And I don't know if you have you seen it?
I haven't watched the match yet, no, but I just saw the
Yeah,
same thing.
Do you want me to spoil it, or do you want to go back and watch
No,
it?
no.
Um,
Actually, I saw a clip of the end, but I haven't watched the whole
yeah.
match.
Ramos got in, head outside, just I think maybe 3 times and just couldn't finish a crackdown. And then looked like I don't know if he was tired, like he was, trying to get some hand fakes or trying to get some action going, but just couldn't really finish. And it was 1-1. Both of the guys didn't really commit to the ride, and then it goes into overtime. And I think we got maybe that third time that Ramos shot in, and kind of a wild scramble, like he picked them up, like dropped him, looked like he had the Turk, and then Blaze was kind of able to pull his heel out and square his hips, and then there ended up being a break in the action, and then on the edge, Blaze got in, I think, on a head outside, but maybe switched to a single. I'm trying to think of the actual sequence in my head, but yeah, ended up finishing right on the edge, and just Ramos looked like he kind of held it for a second, like he had both of his ankles, and then fell backwards, and that was it.
Dang.
But Blaze beat him. He beat Ramos, so he beat the #1 wrestler in the country for college, and then he beat Jax Forrest the match before, the #1 ranked high school wrestler.
Yeah.
So kind of a crazy good day for him. I wonder if the
And
finals are happening right now.
and he's only a junior, right?
In junior in high school. So let's see if it
Yeah.
happened.
I think the
No, he didn't
finals
win, dude. Damn it. He didn't.
oh,
It
he
just
he
happened.
lost
Yeah, he lost. Damn. That
because
sucks.
Bo Bassett is in the finals too, right?
Yeah, I
And
have it
he
up
and he's
right
only
now.
like a sophomore in high school, which is ridiculous. These guys can compete at this level
Yeah,
at
he
that age.
beat Vincent Santaniello. I don't know that name.
Okay.
But yeah, Buzakis lost to Vincent Santaniello from Pitt, and then Bassett beat. Let's see if he beat anybody else. He beat an Ohio State guy. He beat a kid from Clarion. He beat Rini from Columbia.
Green stuff.
Yeah, Andre Gonzalez.
Howie.
Is that Poway guy?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he was at Ohio State.
Yeah, he went right out of high school. He's been there for a couple years now.
Okay, yeah, that name looked familiar, and I thought it was Poway, but I couldn't quite place it. But man, these high schoolers, it's kind of wild. Um, so I heard this. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast yet. So the inside scoop, you know how Aiden Valencia won Reno
Oh yeah, yeah.
a couple years ago. So he ended up
Yep.
getting in trouble for that, and I had to sit out like a couple league duels or something like that for high school. I guess somebody in that section who's a big name. You can maybe piece the dots together through a fit. Um, he's a head coach for a big program over there in CCS.
I don't know the CCS that
Starts
well. What are
starts
they?
with the G, the high school.
Uh,
The
what is
head
that?
coach's initials are DC.
Oh, okay.
I guess kind of was upset or kind of complained about it. And thankfully, Aiden Valencia had some kind of slip signed that their section director or whatever representative had signed off on, saying it was okay for him to go because it was during the high school season. And thankfully, he only had to miss like a couple duels. But he almost had to miss league or something like that. He almost got penalized, which in
So
that
weird.
area you have to go to league, otherwise you can't go
Yeah.
beyond. Um, he ended up missing weight at the high school
Um,
tournament, but yeah, I think it's cool that these kids have this opportunity to go do it. I'm not sure if I agree with that rule where they can't go wrestle opens. I feel like it's open, and I don't know why there's a conflict there between why penalize kids from doing that in California.
correct. I don't know.
I don't think other states are doing that.
Maybe some are, but yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to restrict everyone.
No.
Like you're not being forced to do anything. If you don't want to wrestle in an open, don't. Right? Like if you don't want to wrestle against college guys, don't. But if you do and you can, why would you limit someone's ability to compete at a higher level? Doesn't make sense.
I mean, I can't imagine it's like a liability thing. Like, why would a high school or CIF get sued if they're wrestling unattached? You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
can't
it's
really think of the reason.
well, it has nothing to do with it. He's not even competing under their sanctioning bodies, so
It doesn't
they
affect
shouldn't care at
eligibility.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Kind of crazy, but I mean, it's cool seeing these high school kids win tournaments. I know Bill Bassett's kind of had maybe some setbacks. I think the last I don't know a few months. He didn't win Fargo, right? I don't think.
I
Did
don't
he
know. Well,
lose?
he lost at the who's number one, I think. He got beat pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the last one. I think he lost that, but he just won Super 32, and then he's having a good run today at this thing. So
nice. What you said you watched the Iowa CBU duel?
yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything that stuck out to you about like how Iowa looked or just in general?
Um, yeah, well, I'd say that first match was pretty competitive until the end, but I think skill for skill that Eli Griffin is Griffin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Like he can compete with some of those better guys. Skill for skill, I think just a little more experience. Maybe ran out of gas a little bit at the end, but that'll probably come with more time on the mat throughout the season. But yeah, he was actually pretty impressive, especially since that Ayala's got quite a bit of experience. So I mean, I think they're about the same age, but I think he just has more experience, like wrestling a Big Ten schedule and all that. So
Yeah, I know Griffin I think might be a redshirt sophomore and Ayala I think is something, yeah, either redshirt, I think a redshirt sophomore maybe.
yeah,
Um but it looked to me like I actually think CBU has a lot of talent in their lineup. Like some guys that I think do know how to wrestle. I think the cardio factor, came in. Iowa looked like they were already kind of almost like in midseason form. Like a lot of those guys looked like they're in pretty good shape. Um, Not really being super offensive like some of them, like Voinovich. I think no, he took some attacks, but I think some of their other guys I
yeah.
feel like weren't really pushing the pace super hard. Ayala looked like at first I thought it was his weight cut or something was getting to him. He looked kind of flat in the beginning, but kind of just held strong. I think enough to where kind of just got Griffin tired. Um, was able to put up a lot of takedowns at the end, maybe three
Yeah.
takedowns.
Yeah, he slid him by like 3 times, 4 times, whatever it ended up being.
That Minnesota kid at 57s, I think. Um, Real long, lanky kid, maybe Drayden something.
Oh, yeah, the brothers. They're from right
Yeah.
around here. One of them
Mhm.
was at Nebraska.
Yeah, dude. So they have like five transfers. I think two
Oh,
Nebraska, two Buffalo, and one Wyoming.
okay.
Um, and then, yeah, so the brother wrestled at Nebraska, transferred, and then the younger brother went. But the younger brother was tough. He looked pretty tough, especially against Caliente. No, Franek. Franek's just a bull, dude.
Yep.
The guy's tough.
Yeah, Caliendo might have been the most impressive Iowa guy. Now that I'm trying to think back on all their guys.
Real got a first period tech,
Oh,
but
real. Yeah, yep. Nope, he would be the one. I was thinking am I forgetting someone, but um yeah, real then Caliendo. Voinovich, I don't think was didn't really seem to do much.
he got, I
Or
think,
couldn't do much. Maybe he tried, but
can't remember if it's from like some kind of outside tie, whether it was elbow control or overhook. It kind of a nice little, turn in the shoulders, like to get to the leg, um, head outside attack, but he didn't. I don't think he finished.
no.
But
I mean, he won with the right out, right? That was it.
yeah, yeah, dude, there was a legit full Nelson. Like I saw it, and
Really?
I actually yelled at dude. It was so cool being Matt side. I yelled at the ref. I was like, "You saw it! You saw it! Make the call!" And it was cool. Like my favorite thing, and this is so I stayed down there for the first like half of the duels, and then went back and sat up with my team. But Hiram Brands was telling him like, let go of the like no half. no half. He kept saying it over and over again. And then eventually, like, Voinovich looks back and he's like, they're looking for the full. Like, no half. Like, he just yelling, dude, because Voinovich, like, kept trying to, like, he was going half and wrist
Yeah.
and he kept messing around because the brother that was underneath kept trying to grab, you know how, like, you peel a half? So, like,
Yeah.
trying to re-wrist it and then was going underneath and, like, trying to and kept going back and forth. And the ref was looking right there. I'm like, dude, but it wouldn't, I mean, yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. He still would have had a riding time, but um,
I don't think
but
he's
yeah,
even trying to, he wasn't really trying to turn. Like he had both legs in. Like if he wanted to turn him, he should have let a leg out.
yeah, he had it like his the kid's elbow was like right over his head, dude. Um, it's like you probably could have, but he didn't really have. I don't know if you had maybe the wrist, but then again, too, maybe you could have just I don't know blocked the elbow with your other hand and pull your leg out and drop your chest and got it. I don't know, but uh, I don't know. I feel like sometimes when guys get tired, it's like they act like they're doing something on top when they're really not.
Well,
I thought,
you're in a tight match. You got
yeah,
both legs in. You're working a power half. You're just gonna stay there. You're gonna keep the control. You're not gonna take the risk. Too
yeah,
close of a match. And I think that's what he was doing. But
yeah. I was impressed with Iowa's 84 pounder who's in there. I think he might have been maybe a redshirt senior. Starts with
yeah.
I can't remember his name. I can look it up
Was
real
it the
quick.
Swafford Riggins or something?
No, Aiden Riggins was might have been Swafford.
Swafford, yeah. Or was that
Um,
97?
let's see. I got it. It was yeah, Brendan Swafford. Dude, he looked tough. I thought he got in some good scrambles. Nathan Haas, you know, he's I think from Newark, maybe somewhere.
He's a St. John Bosco. Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't Newark LA? It's something like that. He's from that area, I think, relatively.
Uh, yeah, he's from somewhere in SoCal. Yeah, I don't know where, but he
But
wrestled for Bosco. I don't know where.
yeah,
He
he was a popular crowd favorite, but yeah, Swafford kind of just kept his composure, got in some big scrambles, and then I think could have rode him out for the rest of the third to get the tech, and there was maybe like I don't know 30 seconds left, and end up cutting him. Which in my head I'm like, all right, that's interesting because you know you might not be able to get the tech, which I don't think it really mattered for the duel score because I mean
no.
they're going to win the duel, but it was I think good to see. I'm not just going to try to ride him. I'm going to like cut him and go take him down and get the tech right now, and challenge yourself. So that was kind of cool to see. That stuck out to me. But
Yeah. Yeah, no,
the
it was I think it was overall classic Iowa versus a California school. It
yeah,
was and it is what it is, but it was like California guys really trying to win on skill, technique, and these Iowa guys were good position, going forward and stronger. I think there was a significant strength advantage on their side. So anytime there was kind of like some wrestling exchanges, all like the CBU guys did well in any like
mhm,
exchange, but then like just the overall like consistency, pressure, position kind of won out in the duel, and then a lot of times kind of broke the match open at the end. But and it's like I think some of those CBU guys kind of that ran out of gas towards the end. I think a lot of times that's not just because they're not like in shape. It's like they wrestle these guys that are freaking strong and they exert more effort and strength than they're used to. And
yeah,
that wears them out instead of like, that someone just kind of making them um push the pace. It's just that strength I think is hard to simulate in your room if there's no one like that.
yeah. I mean that's a good point. Um, I thought what was I going to say? I thought and now I'm blanking. Oh, they kept so defensively. CBU kept trying to do that chest wrap thing from a crackdown, and I don't know. I wasn't really like a big fan of it because they weren't really pushing off their back leg. They kind of just sat to their butt, and I think there was a couple times like they even tried to freestyle, like take them over the shoulder and end up in the same spot. But I don't really I don't know. I don't really do that to in folk style to kind of get my hips back. You know what I mean? Like kind of lifting up and then being able to get off your butt so you can square your hips. I mean, you know me, I don't really sprawl, so I kind of just try to roll them through if I'm going to do that. But I know the technique, and it just seemed like, yeah, maybe it was just they didn't have the energy towards the end of the match when they were getting kind of put in those positions. But I don't know. You figure like, dude, like make the adjustment, like lock in the crotch or just don't go to your hip. I don't know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think once they were there, it was, you're trying to battle out of a compromised position. So it's just tougher, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, fair enough.
But
I
but what'd you think? Like, so overall, like, what'd you think of Iowa's lineup? Like, is it gonna be a competitive lineup? Like, I don't know if that'll be their lineup through the by the end of the year, but right, like, was it
yeah,
like their last four guys might have been first time starters for
yeah.
them?
I think yeah, those last well, really one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Seven of them are first time starters, like starters. I think the some of the like the guys that haven't transferred in have been spot starters. Like they've
Yep.
wrestled a couple duels, but like Voinovich, Franek, Caliendo, they're all transfers. So I mean, I don't know. I think that back half of the lineup, I think Riggins, Swafford, Glazier, Hill. It's hard looking at it, and I'd even put Voinovich in there. And I honestly, I mean, I'm even put. I mean, Teskey and Ayala, I think are tough, but are they all American level? I don't know. I'm not sure I would say that, but I think it's tough looking at them and saying, you know, they're going to be able to compete for a national title. I don't see it. I don't think. I think they're maybe national qualifier level, but I don't really see them going deep into the tournament. Those last four guys. Um, I mean, we'll see. I think Swafford actually, I'm pretty high on how he wrestled, but those other guys, I didn't really see anything that really stuck out. But I mean,
Yeah,
Big Ten
and,
schedule,
and
they'll be competitive.
and I guess there's still some unknowns there. I know they haven't said too much, but they have those guys that are in trouble because of the gambling. So who knows if they do come back or if they don't? I don't think they know what the punishments are going to be.
Now,
So
I
it's
know
like,
they're looking at revising the rule, though, right? I think maybe it's like tomorrow or something where they're supposed to find out the deets.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's
So
kind of, I mean, what do you think about the whole gambling thing?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I think there is like instances where I understand why. Like, it's basically like having insider information. Like if I have class with the quarterback for the football team, and I see he's in a sling, and no one else knows, and I go bet a ton of money against the team because the word's not out that he's not playing, and we're gonna play with the backup. I can see why that's like, maybe we shouldn't let kids do that.
Yeah,
But even that's like, well, I don't know. Is that wrong? I don't know. Maybe not. But I think for the case these guys are in, like, you're not supposed to. So it's like to complain like I didn't know or it's a dumb rule. Well, you knew, so you did something you knew you weren't supposed to do. So at this point, it's
yeah.
like too bad for you. Yeah, the rule is dumb.
I mean, I didn't really have it. I mean, I knew the rule, but it's like I didn't really have any money to put up for gambling, anyways.
Yeah.
I think what Panero Johnson he put up like it was like $40,000 or something like that, dude.
Well, I don't know if that's quite how they sliced it because like did he make $410 bets?
I think it
Where
was
he would where
over.
he
It
well
was
you know what I
over
mean
an
like
extended time period.
but like say he started with like $200 and then he would
Oh,
gamble win like 100
yeah,
and then he'd play that 300 back in and then lose like 100 and then he'd gamble that 200 back in. So did he start with 200 and fluctuate a ton of bets with that $200 and then overall he gambled maybe I don't think he probably went and put
that's a
40K
big
down on
jump
the
though.
game.
That's a big jump from 200 to 40,000. But I get what you're
Yeah, yeah.
saying. I get what you're saying.
It, it's still a lot of bets for sure, but I don't. I don't know, right? Like that kind of seemed like ridiculous to me, that many bets. I was like, is he parlaying $200 and it turns into like, you know, 5 bets and he's doing that 4 times a weekend and now he's got 20 bets like 3 times a weekend and now it looks like he has 50 bets, you know.
Yeah.
But
Nelson Brands actually posted on Twitter like what his exact like transactions were, and it came out like he made like $200. And he's
yeah,
like, "That's how much the end of my career costs." Like, it's like, dude, that
yeah.
sucks. I mean, I feel bad for him. Like, I'm not sure if losing a whole year of eligibility because of that is like worth it, or is not worth it. But you know what I mean? Like, if the punishment fits the crime, um, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know, half year suspension, 20% suspension. You got to admit, I don't know,
Well,
something,
I
but
don't think there should be any punishment. Either they can do it or they can't. And if they can't, like, then whatever punishment's the punishment, in my opinion.
yeah, I
Because
mean,
if not,
yeah.
why wouldn't they do it? Like, okay, what would be a punishment? You miss a couple duels, like partial suspension. I don't know, some sort of. I don't know, because then it's like, wow, kids will still do it. So
Yeah,
it's more
and
or less if it should exist more than like what's a fair consequence.
well, plus too, like, do you really want to open up Pandora's box even more? It's like no rules now. It's like, dude, I feel like, I mean, like, kind of like what you were saying, like kids could really take advantage of, possibly having an insider information and betting. Um,
Well, yeah. I mean, wrestling, because there's not a lot of sports betting on wrestling, but in other sports, I can see it. I mean, you're playing for, the 200 ranked D1 football team. You're a second string guy. You get a chance to start, but then you go, huh, man, I can make like 30K this weekend screwing up this game and playing the line or whatever. Why not? You're
yeah,
seemingly the potential to get paid out on gambling for a weekend and betting against your team might be more than what your college success could be. And that's I think the fear.
yeah. Maybe you're like, like a sixth ranked or seventh ranked team in college, and you're a starter for basketball or something, and you go to March Madness and you look at like your path and you're like, we're probably not going to win. Maybe I put it all in on, uh, I'm not, I don't know, whatever team CSUB beating us, then yeah, I'll miss a bunch of free throws, or
Yeah.
I'll try to follow out. I'll try to help those odds, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a stretch to some extent,
Well, it's
like
happened. The problem is it's happened before.
with athletes like that,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
college athletes.
There's a guy that played for Arizona State who was shaving points. And they eventually caught him, but he was shaving points, but he was only trying to like he was still trying to win, but he was trying to help like the spread. So he
Yeah,
so he
yeah.
wasn't losing, but he was trying to shave points. But eventually, he was trying to do it so much that it was costing the team to lose. So it's like kind of caught up on him both ends, and then he got in trouble because they figured out he was doing it and all that. But it happens.
It's like I want my cake and eat it too. I want to
Yeah,
win, but I don't really want to win too much because I want to make
and
money.
that was back in the '90s. I think I saw it. I think there was a 30 for 30 on it or some sort of
Yeah,
ESPN documentary. But yeah, it's happened. I don't know. It's like, do you want to make it corruptible, right? Like even refs have done it.
that was a thing with the basketball
Mm-hmm.
NBA going on for a while, right? I can't remember the name of the ref, but he was like kind of like run a little ring where he would
Yeah.
talk about, all right, we're gonna make this go game 5 or something like
Yeah.
that, and just make money that way. But kind of wild. I mean, but
Same
that's with
thing.
everything, man. Like anytime there's money to be made, like people are gonna find a way to make it. I
Correct.
mean, I
It's
remember middle school, like I mean, kids were selling what's the suckers with the chile on them?
yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Um.
about? The watermelon
Yeah.
suckers.
Yeah.
Like, dude, kids would show up with bags, and like there was like a market, like a black market at school. Like kids would be selling that. There was a soda guy, there was a candy guy. Obviously, it wasn't Santa Cruz, so there would be like a weed guy. But like this, like it was kind of crazy coming in because I'm like, dude, all these people are coming up to me asking me if I want to buy stuff. I'm like, I don't have any money, but interesting.
Yeah.
You know. Well,
What else is good? So you guys are gearing up for the
yeah,
season?
yeah. We have our I think our first varsity tournament um beginning of December. And I don't know. I think there's a couple things. I think for one, we have some youth on the team that I think they're a lot of them in their sophomore and junior year, which usually that's where I feel like you see the biggest jump for high schoolers between their sophomore and junior year, because they're starting to realize, all right, this is kind of where I'm at. And I think a sophomore year can be pretty tough, I think, mentally on some kids. Like we had some kids last year that qualified as freshmen for state. And, now they have it in their head, we're going to go be state placers. And it's like, dude, you guys still have a lot of maturity like to go through. Like you have a lot of growing up to do. But we'll see how it is. I think one thing that's really cool is we have zero period. It's a strong body class, but we go in the wrestling room. So we're getting an extra, 3 or 4 hours in the morning, just drilling, because they moved the school start time back to 8:30. So we come in at 7, get like an hour drilling, and then still have our practice at our normal time. So we're just volume wise getting so much more wrestling, which is awesome. And Carlo is like such a technical guy. That's his element. So it's like putting him in that spot where he can just teach technique in the mornings is awesome. I think it's just trying to figure out how do we deal with all this volume for kids that are still trying to find that maturity. It's hard on their bodies. It's something that's hard on their minds to an extent. Like you can't go live, as much as maybe you would normally, because you have to take into account, well, they're getting extra 3 hours of wrestling, and then once competitions start, that's a whole nother thing. It's like, all right, maybe on Tuesday we get our live out of the way, and that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe we do some situations, but mostly just trying to do play wrestling. So it's an interesting challenge to have, but it's exciting because I don't know. I feel like we have a really good group of kids, and we have a lot of really good parents that are kind of bought into what we want to do. So it's just yeah, dude, it's funny, like thinking about how, for a long time I wanted to be a head coach and I didn't really understand what that meant. And then last year, Carlos kind of giving me more responsibility with things. And I'm like, dude, this is a lot, because there's like, it seems like just that Friday after we stopped talking, there was like 4 things I needed to do that just came out of the blue that I had to deal with, like had in that moment. So it just became a lot really quick. But I'm excited. I'm excited for the year. Apart from that,
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been able to get in the room here for a little bit to help out at all, but even just like being able to watch a college wrestling duel here on Saturday, I was pretty pumped. Just like yelling
yeah.
at the TV by myself. Katie was in bed, and I'm just like, she was already like, kind of done for the day. She's watching the movie up there, and I'm watching like that first takedown Eli Griffin got on Ayala, that nice little
Yeah,
scramble. I was like, oh, I was like, that was nice. I was like getting
yeah.
fired up. I was like, all right, wrestling season's here. Feels good.
Dude, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think like at some point I might not be coaching and I could just be like a fan of wrestling and like have Saturdays, like have Sundays even. I
Man,
don't know.
when I moved out here, right, and got at a coach, and it's like I hadn't had free weekends since I was 10 years old. I didn't know what to do with my time. I was like, what do we do? You know, what do we do? It is kind of wild having weekends, but now I just try to watch wrestling anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I don't know. I always think like in my head I envision myself being like, like a J Rob, just being old and just still doing it like up into my 70s. But I don't know. I also understand there's a life outside of wrestling, um, more and more so that I really care about. So just trying to find that balance. I'm getting better at it, I think. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you love wrestling, you're gonna probably squeeze in as much wrestling as you can in your life, but it's always good to have something else too, even if it's like a minimal hobby, but still nice to do something else that's just not wrestling encompassed.
Yeah. I mean, did you have anything, just even when you were coaching here, like, did you have anything like your side hobby that you would do or want to pursue?
Um, no, I just kind of go do what like, go hike, go visit family, but anything, right? I just try to find things that weren't around focused around wrestling. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've never really like picked up a hobby. I always wanted like, oh, maybe I should try something, stick to it. Like for a period of time, I was like golfing a decent amount. I haven't really gotten back into golfing. When I was right out of college and was like um an assistant coach, my first couple of years, I used to do a lot of disc golf. I was really
Yeah.
into disc golf. I used to do that a lot. I used to do that with like a lot of the wrestlers. That was a fun thing to do. Then I was like golfing for a while, and then kind of haven't circled back to either of those. And now it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever comes up. Actually, you know
Yeah.
what I've been trying to do recently is go listen to some more and more live music. So,
Mm.
which I've kind of always liked music, but I was like, I should go watch more or listen and see more live music. So, trying to do that more. Trying to make a point of
Yeah.
that, but so I
Dude,
bounce around. I guess is what it sounds like. I bounce around
no,
different
but
things.
I mean, you're doing stuff that, kind of gets you out of the wrestling. Just it's
Yep.
just not on your mind all the time, which I think it keeps you mentally fresh. As I think, even just going back to like just J Rob, like I think why he was such a genius is like he would give you a day off if you were a counselor. Like go off and do something. Like go. You always talk about climbing like a mountain or something. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that my day off. But yeah, just getting a mental break. Um, Especially because you think it back like this, it's like, well, you're early 30s, late 20s, and you've been doing wrestling your whole life, and you're a coaching situation. It's like, dude, I've been doing this since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Um, I think hobby things. So like this happened this morning. Emma and I went to the farmers market. Buy that bonds, that hospital. I don't know if you ever went to that one.
Yeah,
Um,
Kaiser, the one by Kaiser.
Yeah, and I'd
Yeah,
actually never been before. Been living here 10 years, never been before, and it was pretty cool. But I just went to every single one, and they're giving out like free samplers things. And one guy ended up was like, Brian. I'm like, hey, and I normally I'm pretty good about like, oh hey, how's it going? Like for people that I don't recognize, but it was one of our wrestlers' dads, and he had like a spice vendor thing. So I got some of the spices, and Emma was with me, and she actually her and my mom went and actually got spice from them before. And I'm like, oh, like I've had your spice before. It's pretty good. I didn't realize who that was until after I started talking to him, but you get put in those situations trying to get out of wrestling, and then someone comes up and talks to you. It's like either they see your ears or they look at you or they recognize you somewhere, and that's a whole thing. It's like, oh, hey, good to see you. And I don't know. I don't want to be rude, but I also don't want to talk about wrestling right now. So it's hard.
yeah, yeah. No, right now it just popped in my head randomly, but one of you probably seen him around. He's both guys that coach at Rigetti, Justin Bronson and Andrew Dominguez, wrestled with
Yeah.
us at Minnesota. But anyway, Justin's originally from out here in Minnesota, from Princeton, central Minnesota, but he was out here visiting family this summer.
Yeah.
And he stopped by here, Waconia, where I live, just to visit a few of us old teammates. But he's in town, staying the night. We go to a kid's soccer game because someone's kid's playing soccer, and we're just like, oh, hanging out at the park, whatever. But we're
Yeah.
all sitting in these lawn chairs watching someone's daughter play soccer, and there's four of us old, like almost 40-year-old guys, and then some guy just randomly walks by, like, "You guys some sort of fighting team?" And we're like, "Huh?" And he's like, your ears. You guys are all fighters. And we're like started laughing, like, no, we're just old former college wrestlers. And he goes, oh, okay, cool. We're just like, what?
Dude, that happens all the time though. like all the time. Like somebody asks, like, "Oh, like where do you train at?" I'm like, "What? Where do you train at, bro?" And I'm like, "You mean like do I? You ask me if I do jujitsu?" Like, yeah, and I'm
It,
like, I don't do I wrestle. I'm like, oh.
yeah, yeah. I was
And
like,
then places like I don't want to be taught like if I go, yeah, I don't do this anymore, but you know, when I was younger, I'd go to, you know, go to a bar and like just some random dude would come up and start talking to me. Like, oh, you wrestled? Like, oh yeah, my buddy who's a state champ or whatever. It'll be something like that. I was like, yeah, but I know not to mess with you, bro. And I'm like, okay, but why are you
yeah,
talking to me then? Just leave me alone. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I never got it, but just people are friendly, I guess.
yeah. I just thought it was funny. It's like, dude, look at us. We're all like mostly out of shape, like guys in their 40s. It's like, what fight team are you talking about? Who's fighting here?
Well, they might know like they might be like a casual MMA fan and see the ears and just think, "Oh,
Oh yeah,
ears, they fight."
fight. Yep.
Not even
Yeah.
like understanding, you know, what your body types may or may not be. Just assuming. But
Yeah. No,
go ahead.
that's exactly what it was. I just thought it was funny. And right now you're talking
Yeah.
about like, people recognizing your ears and whatever. I was like, that's kind of like the last time it was like, what?
Well, in Bakersfield, this was like it was the first time I ever experienced it because Santa Cruz people don't, it's whatever. But I remember being yeah, younger and going to the Walmart and you know, buying something. But somebody came up and like, oh, do you rest like the whole thing? And I'm like, I kind of got caught in a place I didn't really wanted to be. And yeah, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, and then I just like I just kept walking. Um, but dude, I don't know. I like I bottom line I like it because I think it's good that people know wrestling or they know mixed martial arts or whatever because I think it's especially as a coach now trying to build that culture. It's cool, but yeah, if I'm just trying to be not bothered, then yeah, I don't like being recognized. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I gotta make dinner here in a couple minutes. Um, I know. Yeah, what time is it there right now? Is it 8:30?
Yeah. I was just trying to check that and yeah, it's 8:30.
Yeah. How yeah. What do you got going on this week?
A bunch of work. Um, Gotta hop on the phone, try to make some business happen. About it. That's my weekly routine. And I don't know if there's anything else in there that I should know. I don't remember it right now. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think Wyoming is coming to town. What's the 10th? Oh, it's Friday. There you
Friday.
go. Yeah, they're gonna duel JCB, so might pop on over there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, you gotta go, but man, we haven't talked much CSUB wrestling, but it just made me think about Luke getting Kobe in there.
Yeah. I think I think for me, like so trying to think of how to word this. I think what CUCB needs, I think, is somebody that's an alum that really cares about the program that wants to be there, hopefully for a long time. Just because I think the unique situation that is, it's not necessarily the most desirable job. Um, and I think also since Kobe has come from CUCB, when he talks to kids, it's like, dude, I'm a CUCB alum. Like I'm two-time All-American. It sounds a little bit different than, you know, I mean, you know, you were a really good coach and I'm thankful you're my head coach, but if it was like an alumni, like it sounds different when Cobb says it or Efren says it than when you say it
Oh
per
yeah,
se. And I don't mean that,
yeah.
you know, to be whatever.
No, no, that's what I was gonna say. I was excited about Kobe being there. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping, keeps guys like you're saying. Like I think there's so many good things about Kobe being there. So I hope it's guys start to keep developing, doing well, winning, wrestling well. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I think you know, obviously I don't have a lot of money, but you know, things I can do is I can try to promote them. You know, I can try to encourage our guys to go. I can you know, um, just try to find opportunities for kids on the team to stay in Bakersfield and get jobs. You know, I mean, I think that's ultimately what I think our I think the path to success for CCB needs is we need, more high school coaches in town, more club coaches, but also just to build an alumni base that's close. So guys can go into the room and can go train and, just be in a position to be around the program. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. Just gonna see who breaks out this year. I know they have some guys that I think are capable. I think it's been 50 years or 50, how many years in a row with national qualifier?
I think forever. I mean,
Forever.
since basically the start of the program in the 70s. So
Yeah. So somebody needs to step up. Somebody needs to step up this year. We'll see what happens.
Well, need someone to get on the podium too. I mean, not just get there, but I mean, it's been when did Bryce
10 years.
place? That was Bryce,
2014.
right?
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah,
So
I know
10 years without an All-American. That's a streak we got to break.
Yeah,
that
was
sucks.
killing me. That was killing me when I was coaching. I was like, oh man. So hopefully it's something that they can get done here soon.
Yeah, I mean, on that team, like we had guys that I thought were very capable. I thought Sean Nickel was capable. And probably went the furthest. Other than Chance. Matt Williams was tough. I thought, could get on there. I thought Russell, I thought his last year, I thought was actually in a really good spot in the bracket. He would have had Deegan and Lugo, who he's beaten before. Just it's hard. It's hard getting somebody on the podium.
Yeah, Sergio, man, Sergio
too.
Year, he was.
Yeah,
I mean, 25 is always a competitive weight, but I remember Sergio, man, he was wrestling well, and I was like, he was confident. I was like, man, he was good.
Yeah, dude, he was so good on bottom. He was so good
on bottom. Then he started like getting pretty good on top. Yeah, and then I don't know. I think his last year he just kind of got like a lot of confidence and was feeling good, and he was wrestling lights out. He's another guy, like he's another guy. Like if he came back one more year, like he would have been there, right? I feel like, and it's almost like same with Matt Williams. Like, man, one more year you could have done it. You already had like the experience.
Do you feel like you ran out of time with some of these guys? Like if you just got to work with them one more year or had a little more time?
I wouldn't say ran out of. No, I mean that's not fair. I don't think. I mean, if I had more time, but you only get 5 years of eligibility. It is what it is, and I wouldn't say it's just me. I just think even then, like the more you coach, the better you get at it, the more efficient. I think the better you get at developing guys. It's just almost like, oh, if I would have done these things differently sooner, maybe those guys could have broke through. Right?
Yeah.
Is more what I think. So. If we were doing X, Y, and Z sooner, because you're always evolving and trying to do things better. But yeah. Anyway, I'll let you get going. That popped into my head.
Yeah, it was fun talking to you. All right, later.
See ya.